You will come back, my friends. Skirt.
That's going to be the only thing I'm going to be editing out because, hi guys, welcome to my second episode of The Pitch. You know, my monthly show I only do once a month. This time I'm doing it twice because, you know, June child. Anywho, the reason this episode is kind of special is because I dragged my friend Kara here because they're responsible for something that lived rent-free in my head. It was such a good idea. I was like, you know what? I know we're slated to do Legend of the Seeker weekly coming back soon, probably in July, honestly. I gotta get my shit together. And I was like, you know what, before that, I gotta get Kara here, because if it wasn't for Kara, I wouldn't have came up with the stuff that's on the pipeline now.
Hi.
That was just the most terrified hi. Like, guys, she's not held hostage.
Help! Send help! Send help! No, I'm fine. I've got snacks.
So, you're probably just like, I get ideas all the time. Why is this important? Well, it's the only time I'm probably going to be talking about this IP, but Legend of Korra.
Yes.
The black sheep of the Avatar franchise, because what started as just a single season, Nickelodeon was like, we want 3 more. Not for actually good reasons, because the season 1 was enough for what happens when Aang dies. Because they didn't think of an actual series Bible at that point, just 1 season and we're done.
Mm-hmm.
You can clearly tell from the writing that's what their thought process was. So, yeah. At the same time, they pumped out seasons 2, seasons 3, and seasons 4, where season 2 was about Korra getting cocky, and then the Dark Avatar, which led to the convergence of the spirit realm and the physical realm. Season 3 was about the Red Lotus, which we also find out that those are the people that were being sent out to kill Korra because Aang just died when she was being born. Cool. Season 4, Korra is going through PTSD, and we get someone that's just trying to take over a continent, I guess, by using metal bending.
Metal bending and force, because that always works.
So, from
Not really.
Not at all. But from this Venn diagram, you can see the problem of escalation going from the peak at season 2 to then being middle tier at season 3 and then bottom of the tier at season 4. The structure was terrible. Fans have hated it because they're just like, Korra is just the worst Avatar we've ever had. She did not deserve to be an Avatar. Her team Avatar sucks. Why was Mako even here? Bolin is just a golden retriever. Asami was just lesbian bait. And so many other things I've heard on the internet for so many years that it's gotten tiresome to where everyone has complaints, but no one goes over how to fix it. How do we restructure the problems? Like the whole Aang being a bad father, Sokka not being involved, Toph having 2 failed relationships and then having 2 kids out of, I don't know, tryst or lust trips or whatever have you. Why Zuko and May aren't confirmed to be together. Where's Azula?
Wait. Toph had 3 kids.
Oh, right, there was a third one.
Third one's not mentioned often. But I'm pretty sure there was 3. Or was there 2? Oh, I don't remember anymore. Or am I getting them confused?
I don't remember either. I really don't remember. Question for another day. Did Toph pop out 2 kids or 3? And also, did she kill her partners from an orgasm?
She has 2.
Oh.
Sorry, I threw Boomy in there.
That's fine.
Then I'm like, wait, no, that doesn't work. Anyway.
But did she kill them during an orgasm? Probably
Who knows?
Michaela would be the one to say it because she was her voice actress as a child. Be like, probably. Probably.
I can
But
see it.
But regardless of all those things, thankfully this show is heavily unedited, except for this one time. So we're just sitting back and it's like, how do we fix Legend of Korra to make it a better series? That's what the pitch was for, to help fix things, if not introduce concepts that probably have not seen the light of day, and this is a good episode to do it. So, first and foremost, if there was an actual series Bible that was congruent and from the beginning, how do we fix the start? Obviously, here's an opening thing for it. You push the Red Lotus to go from a season 3 mention to being the instigating marker for how to kick off the series. Because then we can answer a lot of things. Where is Sokka? How is Zuko doing now that he's no longer Fire Lord? What's Toph doing? How is Katara feeling after her husband passed? What's the real follow-through? In this instance, and Carl will be taking over to do some other stuff because this is a back and forth thing. I'm just setting up the whole scene for you guys. Potentially, with the Red Lotus, you have enough people that are trained and vicious enough where, to kick off the series, you can kill off Sokka to really showcase that this is no longer a show for kids. And moving this not to Nickelodeon, but Nick at Night.
Exactly.
And I know you're probably wondering, why kill Sokka? He was the heart of Team Avatar. He was the non-bender. He was everything that we wanted as an audience growing up. That's the point. You kill the heart, it sets the precedence and the tone. You no longer have the jokester, the genius, the innovator, the one that sets the tone for everything. And everyone feels lost, everyone feels panicked. No one knows what to do. Is dread that can be felt throughout the spirit realm that can even affect the Avatar. To where Korra, using her own cockiness as bravado, will always have that innate fear of the Red Lotus. PTSD that's littered within, that's the true blockage to make her learning the elements even harder the older that she gets, making even her entering the Avatar state damn near impossible. Now we have a show kicking off. Now we have something that's not just TV PG, but make it TV 14. But then, how do we fix Season 1 for starters? Well, Kara, what do you think? Because we have it where Korra's like a teenager at this point. We still have Republic City. And Aang's kids are still canon. How do we still fix Season 1?
Well, I think having her, like the PTSD thing that you mentioned, I think having her still struggle with trying to master air or even bend air is still a good angle to have. Because, obviously, you know, Aang was an airbender. So it makes sense that she would struggle in some aspects, not only because there aren't currently any airbenders other than Tenzin and his kids, but it kind of helps strengthen that whole PTSD type of angle that can then be used to build forward. Definitely keeping with the Red Lotus. As for, like, bringing it all together, for Season 1 and then still leaving it for Season 2, Amon is a good subplot. Whilst they're trying to find the good, you know, find out more about the Red Lotus and how to go about, you know, finally stopping them. Having them whispered and mentioned and maybe even having some tie-in with Amon, but not, like, as forward. Make it kind of more of a mystery, and then as you're building, they, of course, beat Amon. Korra finally unlocks airbending. It kind of still fits within the season. It's just there's a different underlying tone, where the Red Lotus is this mystery force that is known about, but nobody knows when they're going to strike next. Nobody knows who leads them. But in the meantime, the new team, Bolin, Mako, eventually Asami, they all still meet. They all still have that. One of the things that I liked was Korra becoming part of the team in the show where she was, I can't remember what it was called. What is that sport they play?
Pro bending. I had to
Pro
watch the
bending.
first 5 episodes to get started for this whole thing.
Yeah. That having them do that to kind of build together as a team, since they're the benders of the group, makes sense because it also helps them build their skill as a team and then going forward to help, fight the bad guys. And then eventually you have that underlying subplot with Asami's dad. They still meet Asami. They still build up as a team. Maybe don't do the romance right away because it kind of was. It wasn't strong. It wasn't really needed, especially in season 1, unless it was, going to be an end point where there's still, hey, there's an opening. Maybe they go on, to be together or whatever, but it felt kind of forced.
It was. It was. But I think one thing I would add to that is even if Korra learns airbending, I don't think she would be centered enough to learn the Avatar state by the end of season 1.
Yeah, no, definitely not. She would need to obviously continue her training with airbending to get more control, to understand it more, and then figure out how it fits within her other bending. Because it's learning a whole new style. And obviously she has the other 3 down because she's been learning them her whole life. Since she was discovered as the Avatar and brought under the White Lotus. So it would make sense that she would struggle to figure out the Avatar state because she was missing part of herself for so long, because the Avatar is all about the 4 elements and balance. And if you're not balanced, obviously, getting to that higher tier and the vulnerable state of the Avatar state is harder.
Agreed.
I think having her try it and broaden, like, as the series goes on into season 2, I don't know, just have her focus on kind of centering herself and learning the spiritual side of bending that she struggled with so much. And I still think that that's good because it would make sense, because meditation can bring up fear, anxiety. You mean you're sitting there trying to focus on stuff, but when you're Korra's age, your thoughts are rushing.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be easy to focus and find that inner peace right away. Even without all the stuff that happened in her past life. She's a teenager.
Yeah. But then it's on to season 2, where, going off what you said, Kara, I think season 2 would be good for Corvira? Kuvira?
Yeah, Kuvira.
I can't keep up with these fucking characters.
Kind of bringing Kuvira in as a good secondary season villain, but still have that underlying plot and threat of the Red Lotus that just continues building.
Yes, but here is why I'm saying Kovira, because at this point, Toph, during meditation, is trying to connect to the Avatar state. Like, what we're establishing...
Korra?
Yes, again, these fucking names. These goddamn fucking names. But with Korra trying to go through and learn the Avatar state, the first thing that she's going to probably want to do is talk to Aang. But that's going to be the hard part the entire season. Because I think from how the original series ended, Aang was probably the most spiritual Avatar with how he wanted to do things. So he'd be on a much higher tier than even his predecessors. In doing so, maybe this would be the time where Korra would get answers from, like, Yang Chin, Kuruk. Obviously, Kyoshi would be a heavy person throughout season 2 if Kovira is involved. And Roku, near the end, probably would be a good midway point for her to learn stuff, because if Korra is going to be the avatar that's more for the blending of the two worlds, this would be the season where we learn more of the secondary bending, like
Yeah.
glass bending, metal bending, lava bending, so forth and so
Lightning.
on. Because with glass, that's a subsect within the air that can also
Yeah.
be like, what if air and fire is the reason that lightning is so powerful? What if Mako and Korra are doing these things where their elements can clash together to make something different? What if Bolin discovers that because of his mixed heritage, his lava bending can lead him into bigger precedences for himself, so he doesn't feel like the secondary banana or someone that's just the joke character? He can have his Sokka moment without being the Sokka of this new team. And Asami, like what we talked about before we even made this thing together for the video purposes, she could be her own Tony Stark. She could be the Riri Williams for, of course, motherfucking Legend of Korra, taking over the company but being part of Team Avatar. She's slowly being approached by the White Lotus because there might be some files that her dad might have had that were coming from people connected with the Red Lotus in order to do certain things. Because honestly, the whole thing about they were surprisingly captured and they were still hunting the Avatar for how season 3 happened, that didn't fit well for me as like a narrative point if there are these big
really
characters.
Yeah. For something like that, there needs to be a little bit more of a build-up. And having them imprisoned, or at least maybe a couple of them imprisoned, but having one that got away might even be a good angle for that.
Maybe
But
only
not,
the wind
not all
one.
of them.
Maybe only the wind one. What was his name?
Yeah. I don't remember. But he's the one who eventually got airbending, even though he was a non-bender. Oh, what was his name? Dare I touch Google?
I'm going to Google already, but
All right.
that's just me setting up the chorus side of things. Do you want to take over for like the other side of season 2 while I look this up?
Well, I don't even remember Kuvira that much.
I don't remember jack shit, so we're in the same boat.
Oh, I need to rewatch. But if I remember correctly, she wanted to retake Republic City
She
for the
did.
Earth Kingdom.
She did, because she was thinking that it was a mockery, that it was from the Fire Nation or something.
Well, it's supposed to be a place where people can start over and, the people can come together in one place. That's why it's called Republic City, right?
Yeah.
Aang and Zuko wanted it to be a bench point where all nations could learn to coexist. So that they can better learn from each other. Obviously, that's going to have its own problems, and I think that's where Kuvira was mainly focused. It's a problem, but it also took from the Earth Kingdom because it's on Earth Kingdom. The land originally owned by the Earth Kingdom, and so it kind of makes sense. I'm trying to get my thoughts together, but that's why she kind of wanted to take it back. She's like, no, this is Earth Kingdom territory. It's going to be Earth Kingdom territory again, and all these non-Earth benders are going to be and all of that are going to be kicked out. And she was just a jerk, among other words. Which is why she didn't really sit well as a villain. Maybe like, I don't know, more of a subplot, kind of like a Mon. Where obviously they had to deal with her and her forces, her people like that. And then it would be a good way for Bolin to go in and eventually learn, hey, I kind of want to help her, because they don't obviously know what her plan is. So it'd be a good way for him to still have his moment and then discover his lava bending. And then realize, this isn't good. And from there, bring information to Korra, Mako, Asami, and be like, hey, so this is what she's planning. Oh, she used a lot of. Oh, what did she use? She had this cannon thing.
Yeah, I don't remember what they were trying to do. It's like they used this cannon that's also, I think, a proto rail gun or something. I don't,
Yeah, something like that. Because she had her own technicians, her own mechanical people working on it. Because it's the infancy. It's kind of like steampunk era.
yeah, yeah. Also, the wind person, his name was Zahir.
Ah,
His name was Zahir, and they were trying to say, "Oh, we really let into it in season 2 by having Korra's uncle Uralak being a member of the Red Lotus to showcase the." Yeah, fuck you. I'm not buying this. This is a
it's
lazy.
like no,
This is a
no.
lazy series Bible. Just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's kind of like they somewhat lost their passion, and they're just like, fine, whatever. I don't really know what else to do with Kavira
I don't know either. Like
other than
maybe
that.
the penultimate episode is where Korra stops Kovira while learning about glass bending, metal bending, and maybe trying to
Yeah.
look to Bolin. Like she won't learn lava bending outside of the Avatar state, but she'll
Yeah.
at least see Bolin as someone that might want to help Mako find himself, because Mako never
Mhm.
got a character arc throughout
No, he
the
didn't. He
original
needed one.
series.
He needed one.
He was a pro bender, which means he just did sports. Then he became a
And
cop.
then suddenly, yeah, the cop thing kind of went, where the heck did this come from?
So, I don't know, maybe having it be. Let's also do this. Season 2, Mako, after also seeing that pro bending is suspended until further notice, maybe until season 4. He does not know what to do, so he's just wandering. He is lost. He's having his whole thing of, I need to find myself and discover who
Yeah.
I am.
Well, also trying to support his brother and Korra and Asami.
And
So he's
maybe
feeling that bit too.
and maybe it could lead to some other things that could come from this era, like underground fighting is a huge
Yep.
thing. I know that way too well
Yep.
from personal experience. There's also things that could probably be for a kink variety for his lightning bending that could make him kind of hate himself and block off his bending of some sort. Wow, I've really thought way too much about how to fix Mako.
Well, he needed it. He needs it. I mean, he didn't really have. He was just a stick in the mud.
He was, but with these things, it could open his eyes to potentially build towards, after beating Koviro with his kid brother. I think it's his kid. He is the oldest,
Yeah,
right?
his younger brother. Yeah, Bolin is the younger one.
Okay, like just doing that, maybe he'd want to take up joining the police academy to work underneath Toph's
Beifong.
daughter,
Yeah.
Chief
I just know her as
Beifong.
Chief Beifong. Was her name started with L.
I think
Hold
Lin.
on, I just had it. Yeah, Lin Beifong.
Toph, why are your kids' names so forgettable? I'm starting to think the fans were right. She should have just gotten with Sokka at the end, but no, there
Right?
was Suki.
Well, we don't even get an answer of what happened between, like, with Sokka and Suki. It's all just focused on Aang and Katara.
Yeah, there
That's
was
a whole other thing.
there's a whole lot there, but I think from there we would end season 2 where Korra is finally at a spiritual enough level to connect with Aang, but maybe it's also where he can tell her that her journey just is beginning, because this is where the danger is starting to boil up. Because throughout season 2, Zahir would be taking advantage of the chaos, the disarray throughout all of Republic City and the Earth Kingdoms to then break out members of the Red Lotus to enact their mission to kill the Avatar and try to become the new bridge for the spiritual world. We wouldn't know why. We would just hear at the end of the season that Zahir wants to do one thing: to get the yin and the yang to create something new by destroying the Avatar, the old bridge of what was once there. That's a big build-up thing that's been going on from season 1 and season 2 to where now we can have the Red Lotus as a focal point for season 3.
Yep.
All
Bring in. Yeah, sorry, you continue.
No, you go ahead.
Well, bring in the 3 that we know already. The Sparky Boom Lady. And the armless waterbender.
She was my favorite, the armless water.
She
I'm
was
not
pretty
gonna.
good.
She was my favorite.
She's great. And obviously you have Zahir. I don't remember. Was there a 4th member or was it just 3?
There was a 4th. There was a guy. I think he was an earthbender of sorts. And I guess if you want to count Korra's uncle, Uralak, I guess we can count him. I guess. Like, we don't really need him because all he brought in was the twins, and they creepy ass.
Yeah, no, they were. Yeah.
People cannot convince me enough that they were not like one of those Sweet Home Alabama twins. People could not convince me enough.
No. There was an earthbender guy, but I think they mainly focused on the other 3. I only remember the other 3 because like Zahir and
Sparky Boom Lady and
her name is Keely?
Is it Keely?
P''Li. And I'm totally gonna butcher that one, so I'm just gonna call her Ming.
Let's see. Zahir, Aiwei, Gazan, Ming Hao, Pili.
Yeah, there we go, that lady.
And Unalak.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Now I'm just trying to figure. Yeah, Gazan was the earthbender.
Yep.
Oh, he'd bend earth and lava. Okay, now that helps things. That helps things a lot. So, we get...
Bolin has an enemy.
Yeah. We get, of course, the lava bender. We get Minghui, the water bender.
Yep.
We get Pili.
Sparky Boom Lady.
And we get Zahir. We get the 4 elements versus the new Team Avatar. Okay, so how do we set up Season 3 at this point? Because harmonic convergence hasn't happened yet. The 2 realms have not kind of splintered in. And I don't... Yes?
I think towards the end of Season 3, building up that there might be that convergence would be
I agree. That would
good
definitely...
cliffhanger.
That'd be a good cliffhanger. But I also think that we wouldn't have had Tenzin be with his 2 siblings to do a world trip thing. So...
Yeah.
I think with how we've built up things for seasons 1 and 2, maybe this would be the season where Tenzin and Lee, being old flames and whatnot, that shit still flipped me the fuck out that Aang and Toph were almost in-laws.
Tenzin and Lin, yeah.
Just like, hey, Twinkle Toes, happy Christmas. Toph, I'm 60 years old. Why you still gotta call me Twinkle Toes?
Because you're still Twinkle Toes. Oh my god, that would be... Oh, could you imagine? Oh, yes. We have vivid imaginations. Anyway.
I think this... Yes?
That's pretty much... the wild imaginations got us into this to begin with.
Right? But...
Oh, man.
I think this would be the season where Tenzin, Lin, Kai, Boomy, and maybe even former Fire Lord Prince Zuko would try to assemble the White Lotus as the tertiary narrative for the season. Because too many things have gone awry. Too many alerts have filtered through.
Yep.
Maybe it's been a year and Korra's finally had a year of being the Avatar to make it a little bit more thematically
Yep.
setting for harmonic convergence during this year coming up.
Yep.
So,
And I think at that point, Tenzin being older can also his siblings and stuff can also kind of realize, okay, maybe we need to start helping because this is a lot, even for like Team Avatar, the new Team Avatar. This is a lot just for them to do on their own.
right. And so, while we have.
And that's when Tenzin's kids can also start getting involved a little bit.
That's true. That's true. I almost forgot about the kids, mostly because they had nothing to offer the whole show when I was watching.
I wanted to see more of them. Honestly, they were interesting characters. They had room for their own little adventures, so to speak.
Yeah, and plus, if we were to go down that route, you and I talked about how Where's Zuko's Mom being a mini season, it would have been a good family trip where Zuko is talking about how they are related since Aang was his maternal grandfather.
Related in some weird way, but still there.
And maybe this would also be the best season for older fans to find out how Aang struggled to be present for his family as well as being the Avatar. Like, we don't paint him as a bad parent to just be a bad parent.
Yep.
We'd set it
The struggle of balancing.
Yeah, because in the comics, they try to make it seem like all the lessons that Aang learned throughout the series was undone, and then the way Legend of Korra works, they're still setting the precedent that he would never have done stuff for his kids, ignoring how Hakoda would be his father-in-law, and how he'd learn from Paku about things involving being a parent, because although he is a monk, as well as the Avatar, he's still human. He would learn things from his elders, and it would showcase, like, maybe he was there when Kaya was like, I don't know if I like boys or girls, and then showcase that. Maybe Boomy wants to become a bender, but then it's like, maybe if you go on a trip with me and your Uncle Sokka, you'll be able to learn some stuff from us since you're getting older, and then having it be where Tenzin's trying to bond with his dad, but seeing how difficult it is and not understanding the sacrifices that comes with being an air nomad, with seeing all of the trauma that's still launched into Aang's head, seeing the remnants of his people when he came out of the 100 years in the ice sphere.
Yeah.
Making it more of a human element. I'm sorry, Kyle, I'm like on a roll right now. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. No, you got me listening, but it would be nice to see how the parallels between Aang struggling both when he was young and as a father, and just, I think it would be a nice parallel to how Korra is in some ways struggling as an avatar, but also realizing I have family that I have found, I have my friends that are helping, and how she will get through season 3 against the Red Lotus, and realizing she's not by herself, because it took a while for Aang to realize that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be a good, and it would be nice for, like, seeing Tenzin also go, hey, this is how I can be a better father to my kids, because they're like the future of the Air Nation, right?
Yeah.
The small light of hope that the airbenders aren't fully gone.
But I think this also would eliminate the whole thing of trying to say that Tenzin was the favorite child, because this would set the precedence that Aang didn't have a favorite child. He was a struggling parent that maybe all three of them put on a pedestal in different ways, but now that they're older, they can be like, our dad was a lot more fucked up than even we knew, but he tried his best with us, and we became head of the army, one of the best healers of the waterbenders, and one hell of a leader of the Air Nation, all with a dad that really must have hated himself every day.
But yet, at the same time, was grateful for what he had and was thankful for what he had.
Because that's
Like
more...
two sides of one coin.
Yeah, because that's more realistic than just being
Exactly.
like, oh, Aang just really wanted to spread his teachings with his youngest son. He didn't give a shit about his other kids. His one kid, waterbender. His other kid, non-bender. His youngest, an airbender. So he spent all his time with the No, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out.
If you ask me, he would have shared with each of his kids because they're each his descendants. They are part of the Air Nation through him.
Especially since
that's how I see it.
Especially since that's the teaching that the monks do. They want you to share your history regardless of who you are.
Yep. And I honestly don't think Katara would have just let him pick a favorite.
No. Well, maybe her in the comics, but...
Maybe. But, like, at the end of Season 3, where they're all at, I really don't think... I think they would understand how much family matters. Not only just in a world setting, but whether it's found family, friends, blood family, in some, you know, there are many versions of family. But I don't think Katara would have just let him do that.
True.
Would she let him and Tenzin go and bond every now and then over airbending stuff? Yeah. But I don't think I think she would have been like, no, why don't you take Kaya and Boomy too? Because they're part of it just as much as you are.
Yeah.
In different ways.
Especially since Aang would be like, well, I would do this, but my wife scares me. Oh, come on, Aang. How terrifying is your wife? She tracked down a man when she was roughly just 14, 15 years old, nearly killed a man on a boat using blood bending, and then tried to skewer another with icicle shards in cold blood. Didn't even flinch once.
Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, no, that's scary. But yeah, no, like, I really don't think Aang would do that. I don't think Katara would let him do that. Hell, I don't even think Sokka, being the uncle, would. You know, I think he would bond with Boomy and be part of the reason why Boomy wanted to join the army. And why, you know, he would push them to do what they wanted to do. Not only Aang and Katara, but Sokka would be that fundamental thing in their life.
That raises a good point, Kara. That raises a very good point, because how did we say we're going to kick off the series the way that we're rewriting?
Exactly.
So...
Sokka.
Yeah, so what if Boomy, during the whole tertiary... I know we haven't even touched the primary or secondary, but we're getting there. We're just trying to flush out one big problem.
Yep.
But...
Because that would also feed into Korra.
It would, but maybe the ghost of Sokka being there with the kids on this big journey of theirs would be a good thing, because we didn't really get much with Sokka. Just he was there for the trial for Amon's dad, and then just nothing. Like, we don't hear about him. We don't know if he had kids.
Having his spirit there would be another good point, because if they brought Tenzin's kids, it would also illustrate how much his oldest, Jinora, is connected to the spiritual side of things, because I think she was one of the ones who saw the spirits first.
She did, but they kind of wrote it like a MacGuffin kind of way, rather than she was learning with her dad and everything to build up to it.
I think that would be a good build-off. She could start having that connection in Season 3, building up to Season 4, and she could be more of a key component, because that would also bring it full circle. Not only is Aang's son helping the Avatar, but so is his grandkid.
Yeah, that definitely does fit the motif. And I think with that, the tertiary plot would lead into where we are for the primary and secondary. But let's now finally address the primary, where it's
Red Lotus.
yes, Korra is finally aware of the Red Lotus, but this is probably the time where she wants to learn the Avatar state, but that puts her at odds with Aang because Aang had to learn the hard way that learning
Yeah.
the Avatar state is not a simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe much like how Sokka's helping Aang's kids and his grandkids, this would be Aang trying to correct his own mistakes, like how he made the world fear the Fire Nation when he tried to abandon his training to go to Ba Sing Se during Book 2, and in
Yep.
doing so was killed by Azula and was almost lost.
Yep. It would
At
also feed into the fact that in the original season 3
Mhm.
with the Red Lotus, how they found mercury,
Yeah.
and that's what they poisoned Korra with. Because they would know that the most vulnerable state to have an avatar in is the avatar state. So I think they would push her into learning it.
That is true, but I think this would also be the perfect season to
Yeah.
finally do one thing that they rushed in season 2, which is introducing Juan.
Yep. And understanding where the avatar began.
Because maybe by the halfway mark, when Korra is just so frustrated that she's so tempted to cut off Aang, would be the point where Juan, not in his youngest form, but the form he was when he died,
Yep.
would take a moment to finally talk to him, and then that's when we would learn about Rama and Vatu.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we're getting connective tissue that will lead into season 4 about
Yep.
what will be the ending marker for season 3 to be let's create a dark avatar, the first ever evil avatar. Because with Zahir and the others trying to track down Korra, maybe she's trying to distance herself from her friends, which is now creating the secondary storyline about Team Avatar looking for Korra, where they spent 2 seasons bonding, and now their best friend is abandoning them.
Creating distance. Because
So
she's frustrated.
yeah, so while Korra might be trying to go down a reckless path where her past self is telling her things and her first original incarnation is teaching her, that's a good thing for her to learn about balance, but will it be enough in time? The answer is
Yep.
no. The answer is definitely no.
Yep. Because like what I like that they did in the original season 3 is Korra did distance herself. In some aspects. But I think it would be good for her to distance herself and have Mako, Bolin, and Asami trying to find her before the Red Lotus does. But obviously, having the Red Lotus find her, they still do that thing where they're trying to kill her, and that's when it finally snaps the Avatar state. And then that's when the other 3 come in and they interrupt before they can deal that final blow. Because that was a good idea, because that would also build into season 4 and give her that reason to kind of, have season 4 be a bit of a healing
Yes.
and rebonding.
Yes, where I think with how the 3 storylines about Team Avatar looking and bonding and maybe learning more about themselves, the tertiary plot about the new White Lotus having old members and new coming together to help stop many of the individuals, and Korra being broken beyond belief to finally see what Aang was talking about. I believe that if we were to have Zahir be the only one to escape, like everyone else would be incarcerated and captured. The whole season would also be... Yeah. Like, Peely probably would be killed by Mako, which would honestly push him to want to serve justice to make sure no one has to die needlessly and no one
Hmm.
has to kill without Oh my god, did we just fix Mako?
Yes, we did. I
Holy
think we just
shit.
did. I
Ho-
think after 3 seasons, we just fixed him.
Holy shit. We're magic, Kara. Oh
He's
man.
finally grown, and that's what leads him to be a cop.
He
That's what
finally
finally solidifies it.
becomes a cop in season 4. We did it, Mako. Your creators didn't care, but we did.
We got you, Mako.
Bolin probably facing off against someone to where he'd want to relearn a lot of things from the fundamentals of
Hmm.
earthbending would make him be the person that looks for Toph to make sure
Yep.
his lava bending is also with the core fundamentals to where his
Yep.
skills, his prowess, his everything could make him more of an elite member of Team
Yep.
Avatar for fights to come.
Yep.
And
Go
may
through some hard knocks with Toph.
And maybe this would be the budding seeds needed for Asami to be, why is she going to these lengths for Korra? Why is she doing
Mhm.
all this stuff? Like, if we're gonna do the
Do
original...
romance. Do the building romance.
Yeah, because we're gonna do this whole, oh, they were meant to be together all along, like they were trying to say for the
Hmm.
original.
Hmm.
Maybe this is the good point for questioning, because they've been together for over a year at this point. Maybe a year
Yep.
exact.
And if you end season 3 with Korra being incapacitated, for lack of better words, because they can't get the metal out, which would be another good reason for Bolin to go find Toph.
It just builds so much upon so much to
Hmm.
then have the final season be about the incoming threat of a dark avatar,
Hmm.
uh,
And
Zahir hearing the voice of Vatu so clearly because he's tapped into the spirit world, but not for the right reasons. Maybe the person
mhm,
that really wanted him to hear his voice was an old enemy that hates the avatar more than anything.
yep.
Ko.
And Unalak, you can still bring Unalak and the twins in there. Have Unalak help Zahir find the poles, the portals. So we have that underlying current of the enemies and the flip of her uncle being bad.
Which builds up to, of course, our final season for season 4. We just created an entire series Bible in under an hour, Car. How does that make you feel?
Accomplished and terrified at my at what we can accomplish. Get satisfied.
Well, if you ever want a job being a showrunner, I have a entertainment company I could have you on the ground floor for. We don't have money
Oh,
yet, but you can help us make money.
oh, would be something.
Offer for a
But
later
anyway,
date.
moving on. Later. Yeah.
So, I think season 4 for Korra's story at this point, she's locked into her own body. She's not doing this whole past fights thing. This would be the season where the spiritual trauma that goes with the physical trauma would finally reach its precedence. Because the very precipice of the emotional hurdles and the spiritual
Mhm.
hurdles are at its peak at this point. Because a broken body with a broken spirit would
Mhm.
showcase to Korra why the Avatar state didn't work and
Mhm.
why she's had this feeling inside of her hold her back for so long. To
And I
where.
think
Go ahead,
no,
Car.
continue. I'll let you continue.
No, you go ahead.
Building on that romance more, it would be interesting if Asami tried to use her science to help try and remove the rest of the toxin, the mercury,
Mm-hmm.
and then also try and help her recover. Because Asami's got this place, she can afford the help. It would make sense, right?
It would.
While also trying to help Bolin find Toph to help Korra and help Mako finally solidify that, hey, you'd make a great cop, you know?
Put his skills to good use. Maybe do some stuff
Exactly.
like making him a stun gun, for lack of a better word, of
Kind of be a prototype tester, but also, help him be a cop. While she's
because
also trying to help the police force and help Korra.
yeah, because
I think having her kind of be their person in the chair,
definitely be the
because I
person in the
see that
chair.
for Asami. Asami being the person in the chair
But at the same
makes
time,
so much sense.
talking about the Mako angle, like
Yeah.
from what we've built from him having a
He could
taste
also
of
go
the
on a journey
underworld
with
and
his
whatnot.
brother.
Yeah, like not just that, but just the way that we built the whole thing of a taste of
Hmm.
the underworld thing.
Yep.
This helps him in not just dealing with the fact that he killed someone, but also the sins of the past that he's had before when he
Hmm.
was like, I'm no longer a sportsman. What do I do if I'm not a
Hmm.
sportsman? It helps him on this big growth process with his kid brother looking for this legendary earthbender, as well as learning from Lynn about her mom that
Hmm.
maybe the whole side of justice that he needs to do in case Team Avatar's last days are right in front of them, because he doesn't know if they can save Korra.
Yep.
This is the proper time for him to be like, okay, we're in the middle part of the season. Toph is helping Bolin to where we're finally pulling the Mercury out, where in case Korra doesn't come out, I'm applying to work for the Republic City Police. I know
Hmm.
all the back streets, all the players in
Hmm.
tow. I know about all these things that even they don't. But also, my person in the chair helped me do some stuff where my lightning bending can
Yep.
also be used as a tool to help stop people without killing them.
Yep. Yep. Find ways of incapacitating that are, one, effective, and two, non-lethal.
Especially for the non-metal bending units that are worried
Yep.
about how to
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And not only that, but it would help Korra also realize that final piece that's needed to connect to the Avatar state. Because it's
yeah,
different for every Avatar.
because I think the only avatars that could help her the most at this point in the show would be the dual aspects of Kuruk and Kyoshi. Kyoshi being
Yep.
the world's oldest avatar, Kuruk
That
being the
and
youngest.
that and Aang literally dying and coming back.
Yes, he would be the middle bridge. Those three, I think,
Yeah.
because her learning from the former water bending avatar and the oldest is great, but this is finally the time where she can talk to Aang person to person of like, I was rash, I was impulsive, I had no idea what I
Hmm.
was doing. I want to learn now.
Hmm. Yep. And then finally being free of the poison, finally being able to find her center, starting to realize more of her, like, you know, the connections with her friends, and of course, Asami. And then finally having it click. Only for certain things to happen at the end.
Yes, because at the middle point of the show, while we're focusing on Korra, in the background, it would be Zahir and Unalak finding the portal to get to Vatu. However, by the time they find the portal, Unalak would be betrayed by Zahir, who would just kill him.
Yep.
The twins would run away because
Yep.
they would be way in over their head. They would not know how to stop this guy.
Well, at that point, it would also lead into their redemption arc.
It would. Hopefully not the creepy I wanted to marry Bolin thing again, because no,
Yeah.
that was why.
We haven't even touched upon the interesting filmmaker guy.
Yeah, we're just not gonna do that in this
No.
rewrite. Nope.
No.
We're doing a character study, not a whatever the fuck that was.
Yep. Yep.
Whew.
Anyway.
So, by that point, the twins would have alerted the White Lotus that would have told Team
Yep.
Avatar, but maybe Korra would have already felt the pulse of Vatu the entire time in the spirit world as an ongoing build-up point for how Zahir, as the most spiritual dark airbender, bonding with one of the most darkest elements within the spirit world when he goes through the portal, bonds with it in a way that's never happened before, where unlike Unalaq only having water bending to bend with the spirits and whatnot, maybe that is just a maybe Vatu was soaking up so much stuff from the deceased lion turtles that have passed on their essences that maybe he gave over Zahir's avatar energy bending.
Yeah. Another thing is, it would also be interesting if, as Korra's healing and has that final click, if she was tricked into opening the portals, because if I remember, they needed her to open them.
Yes, but also from
And
what
also,
we...
no.
Yeah, because throughout the original 4 seasons, it's kind of showcased that waterbenders can make a portal to the spirit world for some reason.
Oh, wait, yeah.
It's never touched on
They have
why.
a connection. They have a deeper... I think waterbenders have a connection to the moon.
Yeah, because of Twee and La, those damn fish.
So it would make sense that they have some innate ability to kind of tap into that, which is why Zahir needed Unalaq.
And so, with Unalaq dead...
There we go.
And then
There we go.
maybe using his energy bending on Unalaq's corpse steals his water bending, making him the dark avatar with air, energy, and water. As such...
Yeah, that would make sense. Because I think it would make sense that it would still have the 4 elements, because if I remember correctly, the 4 elements came from the lion turtles, but the strongest would be what could oppose Korra.
Yes, and I think having air being the counterbalance of, like, this was the hardest element for her to learn would be the best offshoot. Because having it be the dark avatar was born of a waterbender, you know, the first element that Korra ever knew, being born in a water tribe. Why?
And since he was slated to become an airbender anyway, when the spirit realm was opened, it would make sense that his strongest would be air.
As such, I don't know what 4th element he would want or need, because air, energy, and
you
water.
have the base, right? And it's already canon that avatars can technically learn the sub-elemental bending.
True.
So he could have all 4. But he could also have more of a connection to the energy bending because of Vatu being in the spirit trap where he was.
Yeah, because I'm going by my training as a spiritualist to where any residue that comes from the living and deceased does get absorbed within the spiritual womb of life. Well, the weaving womb of life, I should say, to where all spirits throughout time and space can feel that residue regardless. So it's definitely a better matchup this go around because it's been built up slowly but surely. Harmonic convergence would be happening in the last 3 episodes of the show. But at this point, the stakes are a lot higher, the danger is a lot greater, and at the same time, this is a dark avatar that can potentially bond his soul within the weave of life to where if Korra were to exorcise him, he could destroy everything but still come back to be the same yin and yang parallels, unlike Unalaq. So... unlike the kaiju fight that happened, what if this is the point where both have their own avatar states?
Oh. Discord problems.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go.
Perfect, perfect. We're in there like swimwear.
Yeah. Alright.
So, instead of the kaiju fight, I know many people love the kaiju fight. I have not heard
Oh,
a
yes.
single error or complaint about the kaiju fight from any fans
No.
of
It
Avatar.
was pretty good.
How
Lots
about
of flashing lights. Yep.
instead we just do they both have an avatar state.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to have Rama be split and severed from Korra, because at this point, Vatu wouldn't need this. He didn't need to just rip out Rama for no reason. He could just kill her in her greatest form, but it's also her most valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Korra now knows
And-
the risk.
I think just because of the clues left in the original series, that having some form of severance happen would be fine. But because it happens at the end, it leaves Korra to realize she has the knowledge that has to be passed down.
I see what you're saying. Like, it's not a necessary thing of a...
Yeah.
What if... Like, if we're gonna do that whole severance thing, what if it's during the Dark Avatar state trying to use energy bending to rip out Rama?
Mm-hmm.
And the last person that Korra can feel being ripped apart isn't Wan. Like, it's going from the start to the end,
Yep.
where she's
Yep.
trying to hang on to Aang as her last anchor. And by the point where she is about to lose Rama in the Avatar state is where she loses the grip on Aang, and that's what breaks her completely in a way that's never happened to any Avatar before.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, he's able to pull back to where she doesn't lose him completely, but just enough to realize even in darkness comes light.
Rama's
And
connection
then, of
comes
course,
back, they
Yep.
reform. It's a brand new, more empowered Avatar state because it's not made from despair or anger, but from hope and possibility, because of the symbology of it from more of the West rather than the East. No, East rather than the West. God damn it, cardinal directions.
Words.
Words betray me yet again. Where I think this would probably be the only time where Korra would kill an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone else would probably have at least one kill on their marker
maybe-
at this point.
Maybe not completely kill. Weaken enough to trap again.
But do you think Korra would do... Because for
I
Aang,
don't know
no
if, 'cause
killing
with her
wouldn't
build-up,
be...
Because with her build-up, I don't know if she would.
You think so?
But then it would also leave that... I think... I don't know if she would kill or not.
What if we left it
But
open-ended?
it would... Yeah.
Like, we
But
just...
if she did kill him, it would leave open that possibility of the Dark Avatar is now reincarnated.
Only if she made it him not be in the Dark Avatar state.
Yep. Because if I remember, they also started a newer series that people don't necessarily like, where the next Avatar was born as a twin, and that twin was the Dark Avatar.
I think I don't fucking know anymore.
But at the same time, I don't really know if that's a good idea. Because I think either imprisonment or final death.
I would probably say final death would be something Rama would be pushing for the most, because...
But at the same time, if Rama was able to be pulled back, so could her counterpart. So you wouldn't get rid of him regardless, you'd just get rid of the Avatar.
True, but I'm also thinking Rama would be the most attached to the prior incarnations because she grew to love each avatar like they were her
Yep.
child.
Yep.
And Korra being, of course, at that emotional precipice where maybe the connection's gone for good with her past lives, maybe not. It's hard to tell. She would be in an emotional state. So it's possible to just see it on both ends, but I kind of like the whole leaving it open ended
Yep.
where
Yep.
maybe they're killed, maybe they're sealed, because then we could both have the
Yep.
angle, but we wouldn't know.
Exactly. And it would also leave it open for whatever came next.
And
Whether it
so
be 10,000 years or whenever,
I
death
don't know,
happens
fam.
and rebirth.
I,
But
I
I don't
don't know,
know. Leaving
fam.
that leaving it open ended is probably the best idea.
But I think with harmonic convergence at this point, maybe this would be the best point in the series to bond the two worlds again. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it would make sense because that's the whole kind of part of the whole reason of season 2 in the show that kind of bleeds in.
True.
But I think it would be a good thing because it would start bringing the worlds back together, and it would be an adaptation, and it's something for the next Avatar to also deal with.
Right, because now this would be the best point for airbenders to start coming back.
Yep.
Tenzin would
Yep.
hear about that sort of stuff. But I'm also going to add one thing. Maybe this would be the best point to where maybe Tenzin's hearing from his wife that they're going to have their, like, what was that prediction that Katara heard that she would see her fourth or fifth grandchild and then pass away in her sleep?
Well, that's okay. Katara's supposed to have a really long life, right?
And
So she
then
would
pass when
see,
seeing her final grandchild
yeah, she would
from...
see Rohan. She would maybe live another year, and then eventually pass.
Because maybe ending it to where the last connections of the original Team
Yeah.
Avatar, not Zuko, Zuko came
Yes.
like way after.
Yeah.
Let the old man live a little bit longer.
Yep. Yep.
Like having the original three members to where when Katara passes, we end the show where she is reaching out for her brother, but then just sees a mysterious hand, and then you see her tearing up to go into her younger self with her brother at the beginning of their journey. Because maybe that means Aang is still around. Maybe he's still in the spirit realm with the connection still intact. Who knows?
Yep. Well, that, and then you could also finally get, just like at the end of season 3, you could finally get that romance.
And then we can close it out from... You know, I kind of like this series Bible. It's just, what would Bolin have unless we were to be like, hey guys,
Well, he did
pro
meet-
bending
he
is
did
back.
He did meet a girl.
Oh yeah, he
Maybe he could still meet
What's her name?
she also ended up becoming an airbender.
Yeah, he could meet... What's her name?
Suyin's daughter.
Yeah, whatever her name was.
Lynn's half sister.
Whatever her name was.
I don't remember her name, man.
So many fucking names.
I remember faces, and apparently it transfers over into animations too.
Apparently. But I think from what you're saying, it does fit for all of them. Like, I also want Bolin to get a win. Like, maybe he
Yep.
creates the new fire ferrets. Like, he's a manager training up people because he was taught by so many people.
Yep.
Mako
He
becomes
goes on-
a cop.
Yeah, you get a little snippets of everybody's life, and of course, Team Avatar's still hanging out. So you have Bolin being a cop, learning under Lin, maybe even learning how to take
Mako
over.
being a cop.
Yeah, Mako being a cop.
It names, I know.
Oh, Mako being a cop, learning under Lin, possibly even to take over as chief. Bolin and the new fire ferrets. Korra and Asami finally deciding, yep, nope, this is a thing. We're happening. And then you have Pabu and her dog. I can't remember the dog's name. The polar bear dog.
Naga?
Kind of crash in. Naga? Naga. I think it's Naga.
I think so.
Kind of crash in as everybody else is kind of doing their thing. And then I think it would be fun to have them all meeting up somewhere and then have Naga and Pabu just kind of cause chaos and then end it there.
And so, from all that sort of stuff, also maybe have it with Janora becoming an official master,
getting
airbender.
Her tattoos.
Yeah,
Janora can get her tattoos.
like have it be the organic thing. We still have the ending of Katara because everyone's like, well, we have all these legacy people, but Katara lived this long ass life. Is she still alive? Have it be a post-credit scene after the credits have already rolled of just these were Katara's last years seeing a new era, her husband reincarnated as a fairly tan-skinned teenage woman. No complicated feelings there.
For the fact that she slightly looks like her.
It's like, wow, Aang, you're a woman this time. I'm not Aang. No, you're definitely Aang. I don't know how to feel about this. Had a lot of sex.
I think it would have been weird for Katara at the start, but then I think she would have been like, yeah, no, she's a completely different person. It's a completely different person. I don't know. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah. Just like
I don't know if I want to touch that one.
Just like the whole thing of Zuko, like, so Aang, I found out that you're my grandpa. I'm your what?
I'm sorry. What? No, I think that's a pretty good way to end it. Full circle.
It's definitely a good thing for a full circle thing, because I think with what we've proposed for the pitch, this is a better way to do the series, because it's more thought out, it's more plot paced to where you can add in whatever dialogue chains that you want to lead into all the stuff in the storyboard department. Because now that the series Bible is confirmed, you can now do the pitches for how do the dialogue chains go with the script writing process, how do the action scenes go with the storyboard team, how do we finalize stuff with the animation department. We go through all those chains now that the series Bible is concerned. We take it to Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon can push it for Nick at Night to get into the nostalgia brand, but also try to do reruns of Avatar The Last Airbender on Nickelodeon by also doing snippets for the older people to stay up a little bit longer. They get their ratings up, push a couple of toys that are just for the nostalgia people at conventions. Boom, boom, boom. No more creepy Dan Schneider TV shows. No. We no longer get the creepy man filming teenage kids' feet. No, we don't do that here.
Yep, exactly. I think that's it. Yeah, full circle. That's a wrap. For the most part.
For the most part, yeah, but...
Or is it? No.
But I honestly think that this is honestly, first of all, the longest episode of the pitch I have ever done for this show I started this year. It is insane that I started this show to just talk about potential things you could do with an IP and then how to fix certain IPs. And this is my longest episode on the month I was born. Holy damn.
Well, okay. We did a lot. There was a lot to do. There was a lot to go through, a lot to like fix and tweak here and there, by still keeping some of the elements that were actually part of the show.
Yeah. And
so yeah, it works well.
It works well, but I'm gonna let you on a secret, Cara.
What?
I am still high as hell from yesterday.
Oh my god.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck I did this.
It's the magic of the brain, man. Either that or just the chaos. Probably both, to be honest. Probably both. More than likely both.
More than likely, both indeed. But I want to thank you for helping me with this episode because again, this came primarily from you and I have a discussion. I openly took this as this was your idea, and I wanted you here for this episode before we discuss when we're going to be doing the Legend of the Seeker weekly reviews to come back, so I can close out season 1 and then we can focus on recording stuff for season 2.
Oh, I gotta do that yet. I've got time. I've got 4 days off.
You got time, but
I got time.
for right now, I appreciate you doing this with me. I appreciate you guys listening to this long-ass ramble. And for all of you guys that are still just like, Korra was the worst Avatar. Oh, trust me. Trust me. There are worse things on Nickelodeon that need fixing that I will be addressing in the years to come. But until then, eat ass, suck a dick, sell drugs, I guess, from John Mulaney's point of view. And,
Chaos.
yeah, chaos.